Okay, once again, welcome everybody. We're going to talk to some true legends. These guys raced when racing was racing and not corporate sponsorships. And if you bring the money, you get the ride. They had to work and get their own rides and build their own cars and everything else. So I'm a little nervous, so if I screw up names and stuff like that, please forgive me. We'll start at the end with Mr. Little John Provenzano. Next to him, Al Madden. Next to him, probably one of the most famous names in local racing around here. Well, his last name at least, nobody really knows him. But Errol Van Allen, Joe Rossio, Bruce Zartler, and Fast Freddie Lofgren. These guys were all the guys I watched when I was at Santa Fe. And they're amazing, and you can't find anybody who went to Santa Fe doesn't know every one of these guys.
Last time I seen you, you had an afro.
So, you guys, work your on bay back. There's chairs available up front. I'm not very good at this interview thing. So, like I was teasing with Bruce before, does anybody up here have any rivalries that we can exploit?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a mute question for Little John because we know he has a bunch.
Yeah.
So, let's start over that way with Little John and maybe share one of your great Santa Fe memories. And although you've traveled a lot of tracks or any track you want to talk about.
Wow. Well, I ran Santa Fe a lot. Everybody knows that. Then I'm traveling, running the World Outlaws. I would have to say probably winning the very first 200 I ever won. I think Jimmy went leading, and I passed him with about 70 laps to go. That was a big thing for me back then, sometime in the 80s, middle 80s. I guess I'm in a better rate than we're rating with Al here, learning. He taught me some stuff back in the sportsman days. You know, I had him drive my car one night. I didn't know what I was doing, and he helped me out, you know, and get me going a little better. I just rate hard, maybe too hard a lot of time, made a lot of people mad. But you know, that was part of it. That was the Speedway. You had them drive hard and rough, push people out of your way, or they'll push you out of the way. You know, I mean, you're out and verify it. I'm not sure about Reddy. He come in a little bit later, you know, when it wasn't quite as rough. But
until he came.
Yeah. You know, I was watching the tape last night with me and Freddie. I wanted to win the championship at Santa Fe. And he started up front. I had to start in the rear. I was the point leader. And I caught him on the last lap, and I went around him on the outside, and he kind of like worked me up into the wall, and I had to hit the brake. I went point racing. And after that, I quit point racing. I didn't want to race the racetrack or point. I would just travel. I won here, won there, I go somewhere else. Only place I won a lot of championships out Speedway because there was nowhere else to run, you know. All racetracks were gone. But, you know, I won a lot of features, 10 championships. Made a lot of good friends, raced for a lot of good people, and made a lot of people mad over the years. That was part of it.
You can't get away with that these days. How about you, Mr. Madden? May I also...
Oh, I don't know. I think that one of the best things that ever happened at Santa Fe is actually working with Little John, because I remember one time I built a car for Jim O'Connor, and he ran a season with it and run really good, and then traded it in at the end of the year, and the car sat in my shop for the whole summer. And right at the end of the summer, Little John, right before the 200, about 2 weeks before, he says, Al, could you put that car together for me? I'll bring you some parts over in the motor, just get it all together. I says, all right, I'll get it together for you. He said, I want you to set it up, but I want you to set it up to win the 200 lapper. I says, all right, I'll do the best I can. You know, so he went out there, he says, I'll qualify the car. Somehow I'll get around there, I'll get in the show. Well, he started about midway through the show, and God, about halfway through, here he's moving through the pack, you know. Well, right at the end of the race, he caught Jim O'Connor, and they finished 1 and 2. O'Connor beat him that year, but it was a really close race, and And I was really surprised to see both of them run that good. That was pretty exciting for me and for him at the time.
Yeah.
But he was a pretty good guy to work with, to help out and stuff. I used to like when he had that little midget he used to bring over to my shop.
Yeah.
And
A car or a person?
Huh? He had
A car or
car.
a person?
No, he had a little midget guy that used to work with him, and he'd put him in the car, and he could stand up in the car and clean the windshield,
Yeah.
And he was just fun to be around. And that was just one of his sidekicks at the time, and it was interesting. It was fun. But I worked with Freddie. We built some cars, and Freddie was a good guy to work with. Just about everybody I ever dealt with was good to work with. Joe was good to work with. I'm glad he learned something from me, at least a little bit about fabricating, and that my dad, who was lucky to clown at the track, when I was starting to put cars together, he says, "Hey, listen," he says, "I want you to, if you're going to do something, take your time, do it right, make it look good." He says, "When you bring your car out to the track and somebody looks at it," he says, "let them know that you're the fabricator you are. Make sure it's a nice job and nice and clean." So that's kind of the way I did all my cars and everything. I like doing the interior work, make them look nice, and the bodies. And that's what I tried to instill on some of these guys, to have a little pride in your car, and it worked out pretty good.
Having been to Al's shop, I can attest to that because you go outside in the scrap pile and see bars and pieces of material he didn't think were just quite perfect ended up out there. So
Yeah.
and I did forget to mention that Al was probably one of the premier chassis guys. And I don't know about Errol, but I think everybody else up here at one time or another was in a Madden car.
Yeah,
So, and
Well, I'll tell you what, I used to really enjoy working on cars for these guys. There's a lot of good racers out there. You get in a racing crowd, you meet a lot of good people. You get along with them. You're running them at the track. It don't matter if you race against them. You know what? When you're racing against them, a lot of times you taught them stuff. You taught them, they'd come up and ask you, how can you pass me like that? Well, you tell them, here, this is how you do it and stuff. Because I didn't race forever. Hell, I was getting too old then.
got to keep it going. Okay, well, we can come back again, and let's move over to Errol, see if he's got any stories. Like I said,
I'm too old.
you're too old. If you guys don't recognize the man named Van Allen, I don't think there's anybody in his family that wasn't involved in racing. His dad is a legend at both Santa Fe. I mean, is your dad? Yeah. Uncle. I'm sorry. A legend at Raceway and at Santa Fe. I mean, so. One of the greatest. And Melvin, the whole Van Allen family. You couldn't mention Santa Fe without saying them. So, you got any favorite memories or anything?
Yeah, I guess my favorite memory is in '75, we were running pretty good. We had a Gene Richards stock car Enterprise car, and we're running fifth in points, and Larry Jackson was leading the points, and him and Seth Piper and Chico, that's who his car owners were, Seth Piper and Chico, they kind of had a falling out between the three of them, and Larry got out of the car for the last 5 weeks of the year, and the car that Larry was driving, had my Uncle Bill still been with us, would have been the car he would have been driving because he raced for Seth and Chico for several years. So they came to me and asked me to get into the car for them for the last weeks of the season. And I was really happy to do that because it would have been the car my uncle would have been driving, and he was my mentor, my idol, my buddy, everything. So anyway, got into that car and for all the big races at the end of the year, and we ran pretty good. Didn't finish out of the top 5 any of those weeks. Went down to Champaign, and we only lost to 2 USAC cars that were down there. Ernie and Arch Durr, their names were. We were right up on them and finished third in that race. But that's probably my best memories, other than spending all the time with my family every weekend going out to the races, either driving or being on a pit crew, and going out there and just spending a lot of quality time with my family, my mom and dad, my uncles, my aunts, my brothers. So yeah, we had a lot of good years at Santa Fe, and coming here and seeing some of the people I see here today just kind of brings back all those memories for me.
Well, thank you and your family for all the years of enjoyment, and glad to see you're involved. And I know several of you guys came a long way to be here, and we appreciate it. Now, I know if you know Joe, you've probably heard every one of his stories, but we're going to get to tell a few more, if you don't mind, Joe.
Okay, I got a few.
If you guys that don't remember,
I can
if
tell
you were
you
at
one
Santa
about Al.
Oh, is this the rivalry one? That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, because I love it. Those are
It was at the
good.
start of the feature. I got spun out. And I look in my rearview mirror, it was Al. So I thought, well, this just totally ticks me off. So I chased him down, getting ready to take him out when his car burst into flames. I said, well, I guess that was karma. So I ended up winning the feature from the back of the pack that night. Then there was another time I had blown the motor on Saturday night. That's when we were running Saturday and Sunday. I blew my 6-cylinder motor up on Saturday. And I had nothing to put in for Sunday. A guy gave me a 6-cylinder that was just totally junk. So I put it in there stock. And I'm running fourth, white flag lap. Everything's cool. Hey, fourth ain't bad. And I look up and here's Nippenberg, Fred Royal, and Tim McGinnis spun out. I drove around them and won the feature that night.
So what's it
Other
like to
than
be
that,
good?
there's been a lot of great times, and I'd like to give a shout out to the ones that ain't with us no more. Mel Van Allen, Fred Royal, all very good friends with me. And I wish they were still here, but
Amen.
they're
I
in a
wish I
better
was.
place, hopefully.
I wish I was doing this when they were around, so we'd have their memories too. Joe, I think they're trying to
In
tell
fact,
you to
one
leave.
night, Mel, I was running, this was in 76, and I was running for points, and I got taken out early. And Mel drives his car onto the infield next to the mine, unbuckles, and tells me, come on, get in my car. So I got in his car and finished the feature and got a few points that night with his car. So, all great people. Enemies on the track, best of friends off the track. Not enemies, but competitors, I might as well say. That's all.
It's competitive, but it was always, like you said, you were always willing to help your other racer and everybody like
Exactly.
that. And now that I think about it, he mentioned my first race car I ever bought was bought off from Mel Van Allen. Tell me, it had checker cab bumpers, a Cadillac Seville front stub. Mel was definitely thinking outside the box or whatever he could find in the scrapyard. So, and my second car I ever drove was built by Al Madden, and it was owned by Dave Berniccio, and I drove that car for him for a little bit. And the junk I had around before those two cars, you'd be amazed how much difference it was. So, but okay, well, next we got Mr. Bruce Zartler. He's a little shy, so how about we encourage him with a little applause and see how we can do here? So,
Thank you. Well, first off, Santa Fe was like a big family. You waited to go there to see everybody. Even like Joe said, you'd have an argument one night, and the next night you'd be friends again. But I actually started at Raceway Park. I was 14 with the fellow sitting right there, Wayne Coleman. We bought I believe it was a 60 Chevy. Yeah, and we took it to his dad's shop. I was never at Santa Fe. And he welded the rear springs, and we sat and put a chain on it. We were running Santa Fe. My father ran midgets. And we had there was a dual show at Santa Fe one night. So he towed out there. And at Raceway Park, if you started on the outside, you might as well just give it up because you're going to the rear. I watched the heat race at Santa Fe, and the guy on the outside actually, he drove off. And I'm going, wow, on the outside. So then I got a hold of Jay Bowman. He built a Sportsman. I never had a Madden car, sorry. But I had Jay Bowman, and he came up with the idea of building the chassis. You had to have a Camaro front end, and we put an Olds Tornado wheel, which it didn't offset the car, it just offset the wheel. And that car, I won a lot of races with that. it's just that my first feature I can remember, and it was with Mel Van Halen, as a matter of fact. I finally started 6, and I'm running third in your yellow flag, and Mark Irwin was in front of Mel. And and I'm going, wow, third place, this will be great. And they throw the green flag, and all of a sudden, Mel just takes Mark Irvin and dumps him in the infield. I'm going, oh, wow, look at this, I'm in second now. We go down into the corner, and he pushes, and I get under him, go down the straightaway. Now I'm in the lead, and there was 3 laps. We didn't have the scoreboard then. You're just figuring, and I'm going, man, where's the white flag? Where's the white flag? And every time I went in the corner, I hung on, because I knew once you pass Mel Van Allen, you better hang on, because he's coming at you. But he never touched me that night. It was the first feature I ever won, and ever since then, that was just racing at Santa Fe. I was always one to be different. That's why I went with Jay Bowman to build a car. And then late models, I went out to Batesville, Arkansas, and bought a late model out there. It was a Larry Shaw car. Everybody else was racing, I think, Scurv or somebody's cars. Yeah. And I had the only Larry Shaw car, and we did pretty good with it. Never won a feature, but set a track record out there one night, and that's about it. Now I work in Willow Springs along with another driver who's sitting over there. He's a trustee in Willow Springs, Fred Bosch. So I'm the building commissioner, and every time we get called out to one Santa Fe way, we pull in there and we go around, and you just remember where the stands were, and some of the grass is dead there because all the stuff that was in the ground over there. And that's about what I have to say.
Bruce gave a lot of people a lot of competition. He was a good guy out there. He was another one. There's quite a few people in his family in the racing industry over the years. And like he said, I didn't know he started at Raceway Park. Sorry, people. I would have never invited him up here. Let's move on now to Mr. Freddie Lofgren. Maybe you know him as Fast Freddie. Maybe you know him. I don't know. I can't say the other names. There's a lot of young ladies and people out here, but he's another Santa Fe legend. I don't know if he ever raced a sportsman car, but I know he raced a lot of late models and was pretty damn good. So, what do you got to say about things, Freddie?
Boy, there's so many memories over the years
Okay, we only got 3 hours.
with
so.
guys. Pardon me?
We only got 3 hours, so.
Yeah, and I realize that. But just things been said just a few minutes ago. Tornado wheels. You know, it's something I felt like I had to go ahead and do, and I did, but I couldn't keep an axle from breaking, so I had to kind of give up on that type of idea. But, you know, it's like racing with John and Al Madden over the years, and along with a lot of guys that are here that raced with, just appreciate the good times we've had and the out-of-town stuff that we did, right, John? Driving a tow vehicle up some city. Now, we'll forget about that, but
We'll get this behind the
just
scenes.
so many things as far as, you know, that went on in a life of racing. And to go ahead and think about a couple of years ago when John's son and my son were racing a season over at Sycamore, and it brought back so many good memories, you know, seeing John on a weekly basis, and it just, you know, just enjoyed stuff like that. Last night, before I went to bed, I was thinking about the crash we had over at Santa Fe, and it's like, I couldn't go to sleep. You know, it's just, and to me, stuff happens, and we all got through it that day. It could have been a lot worse, but aside from that, the Al Madden cars that I've had over the years, it was just an unbelievable stepping stone to get to that level, and really, really enjoyed it.
and there have been other cars in the life of racing, but everything that's going on even today, it's like my son is upgraded to go to a late model car last season, and this season he's got one of them rocket cars, and I guess that's going to be some enjoyment this summer to go ahead and watch him do what he enjoys doing. I just wish he would have got more involved at the time when I decided to quit, because it would probably helped him move on forward sooner, but he chose to work for a living, and
How dare he?
and now that he's kind of probably made a few dollars, buying up his time with race cars, so. But anybody got any questions?
He read my mind.
How old are you,
Right next.
Fred?
What's that?
How old are you, Fred?
I'm 71 this week.
Happy birthday to you.
Hey, birthdays are for women and children. Come on now.
We're racers. We think we're not children.
So's Christmas.
Yeah. Well, Freddie brought up a good point. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to ask.
Who caused the 200 wreck?
I'm going to have to say it was somewhere between Bill Nittenberg and myself. I T-boned Bill in turn 3, and that's where it stacked up. And it's like every car that came into that crash, it's like I could feel every one of them in the tailbone.
And how did I get blamed for it?
No, you didn't get
Pardon me,
blamed,
John?
How did I get blamed for it?
I have no idea.
All I remember, a yellow car come out of the infield, and I got
wouldn't
backspun. If you look at the pictures, I'm the only one who's facing backwards up by the
Yeah.
big old beer bottle. That's where I ended up,
Well, I
up
was
against the wall.
I was in front of the crash, but I got the blame for it, for whatever reason.
No, I never blamed you.
But anyway, you couldn't see.
No.
You on the back straightaway.
Nope.
You
The
couldn't
sun
see
was in our
nothing.
eyes. The
Yeah.
sun was coming
Yeah.
down in our eyes, and it was my first words. Well, I really can't say what my first words were when I went down that back straightaway, but like I said, I got backspun, hit the wall, and then got pushed up by the beer bottle, up against the wall, and then I could see, because I was facing out of the sun, I could see everybody. I'll never forget Paul Reber. I watched him come down the straightaway, and I'm waving, but he couldn't see anything. And I could see him like this, barreling down. I'm going, this ain't. And man, he went into that pile. In fact, he was the one who ended up sideways. We had to get him out because his arm was pinned.
Yeah, he broke his wrist
Yeah.
or arm or something. He's
Yeah.
the first one that called me on Monday morning. Hey, man, you didn't cause that wreck. None of us, we all should have protested and stopped.
Yeah.
Should have stopped because we couldn't see.
No,
We couldn't see.
you couldn't see. It was.
The only thing you could see is when you went down the back chute is the wall, and you followed the wall.
Yeah.
Knowing that you could come to turn 3 and see, and that's all that really mattered. But when it got blocked, nobody had a chance at that point.
In fact, when I was sitting there watching this, because I'm watching the cars pile up alongside of me, I looked over at the flagger, and he's like this with the green flag, because nobody could see what was going on.
I'll back
Yeah.
him up with that. I was standing by the fence right there, and all you saw was a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
And the car that was in there first, another car would go in the cloud of dust, disappear, but the car that was there would just pop up another level out of the
Yeah.
dust.
All you would hear
so
was
it
a
was just
bang.
one after another, and it's happened so fast. And by the way, Little John, Freddie did tell me it was your fault.
And then what got
That's all right.
scary,
I mean, I had a guy over at a car dealer one day, and I was there when you caused that wreck, and this is exactly what I told him. You might not like him, but this is exactly what I told him. You know what? I didn't cause the wreck. I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
Monday morning, I put $13,000 in my bank account. I didn't know what else to tell him. I all week would tell them, and nobody
Yeah.
would listen.
I'd like to
I
say
think
another
he's
thing
finished.
about Al Madden. When he started earlier about pride in building vehicles,
it caused me to remember the car that he had built for me. You know, it was like a best of pairings. So, I mean, that statement that he went ahead and said, you know, put a lot of effort into doing the car and doing the car right. And the car never broke. I mean, maintenance plays a part, but everything that he did, and to think of the things that he'd done in his lifetime with vehicles, it's just amazing to me, you know, the quality of what he did in his time. You really want to appreciate that. Al, you deserve that too.
Well, I got something to say about that too. 1978, Al redid my Hornet for me. And we went to the World of Wheel with it. And you know, the World of Wheel is big. We won the most popular car in the show, you know, because of the work he did.
You're right. I forgot about that myself. Had a World Wheels car there that Al had built, and just left with that prize too. And it's just a thanks to Al Madden.
I'm working on one right now, Fred.
Well, we have another question over here.
Well, this is more of a comment. I could absolve Little John and Freddie of all blame. Going down the back straightaway, number 73, Tom Githis went off the back straightaway, drove through the infield, created the dust cloud. Created the dust cloud that drifted into turn three, rather. That before the wreck, and that's what Little John was. What you all guys were talking about. You couldn't see because of the dust cloud. And it was that car that went through the infield that created that dust cloud.
Let's find him where he's at.
The dust was there before.
Yeah, yes.
The dust cloud had nothing to do with it. Never saw us.
Well,
Never
it
no
helped
sight of it.
The dust cloud helped.
I'm sorry. Can you come up here? Yeah. Anybody that's got a question, come up here so everybody can hear it. Got nothing to say, Fred? And you're just sitting there.
All right, for the drivers, everyone talks about the pileup. Does anybody remember the pileup in the early 80s in the 200 at the 100 lap mark? We used to throw the red flag, and somebody laid on the brakes right at the front straightaway, and huge pileup.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember it?
Yep.
All right.
I'll tell you who stopped. When Tony Izzo.
It was. That's what my dad said. I thought it was
Yeah.
Bobby Ray. Okay.
No, when Tony Izzo.
All right.
I went behind them, and I had to slam on the brake, and the car behind them didn't. They hit air bottle and everything. It was a mess.
And then after that, at the 100 lap mark, it was always the yellow flag. That's what it was. The red flag was always thrown at the 100 lap mark.
Right.
Yep.
You're right.
So you caused 2 wrecks?
I probably caught a lot more than that, but that's beside the point.
Okay, I'm just going to take one quick second. I'd like to point out we have some very, very important people to the racing around here. He's going to hate me for this, but if you all turn around, we see Mr. Jim Bobeck and Jeff Bobeck from Jeff's Engine Masters, who so many people, and I'm sure we're through at this table, owe their racing success to.
Yep, there
Yeah, yeah, see, there he is. He's waving. He's shy, but he's still pretty. We have Al Madden's family sitting in the front row, and Bruce Monkman in the back. And, oh, I'm sorry, Bill, I forgot about you. The ultimate
Don't
Bill
forget about
Jive
Chuck.
Jarvis. So,
Mr. Boback. Hey, Jim, haven't you got a question for us? Come on up here and say something. You deserve some time. Come on.
I asked him 14 times, and he just gave me a dirty look and threatened to have Jeff's kids kick my butt. So if anybody else got a question, come on up. If anybody else has got anything to say, please feel more than free to say, since we got interrupted a little bit there.
Well, somebody was saying about Rateway Park. I rate there. I heard somebody say something about Waukegan. I rate there when they turned to dirt. I went to racing at Rateway Park, but that is a very, very hard clique to get involved in. You know, they were very tight-knit, and I had some trouble with a Waltmeyer. But you know what? After a few races, I got to get along with them. But they didn't pay enough money that we come back and pay some of the other dirt crap.
Yeah, you can't blame them asphalt guys. They get no people in the stands. So
No, I mean, I like them. I put it up on the buy tire every night.
to all your asphalt guys out there, I apologize. I just joke. You know, you both know that Steve and I are from different. He's from Raceway. I'm from Santa Fe. So no wonder we butt heads. But if nobody else has anything to say, and you're more than welcome to say anything you want. Hopefully, these guys hang around a little bit so you can talk to them in person if they want. And I'm old too, but I grew up watching everybody at this table race, whether it was from the stands or the pits, and these are all guys that I looked up to. And even though, like to go back to Al, even though people maybe not have drove a Mad Dog chassis, if they drove at Santa Fe, the chassis they drove, somebody probably stole something off of his cars to make it work. So, and it's amazing. And I see Pete Argenis back there, who have managed to avoid the table again today. Another racing legend at Santa Fe. Oh, there he is over there. If you all look to your left, there's Mr. Mark Warner, another Santa Fe legend. I believe Mark lived right down the block from Santa Fe. And I could have swore I saw him drive his car to the track 1 or 2 times. What's that?
Or he pulled it with a dump truck.
Yeah, pulled it with a dump truck, Joe says. So, and that's how my car drove, was like a dump truck. But that's beside the point. And once again, I want to take the time to thank all of you guys for coming out. This is what this is about for me, is sharing memories of all the all the legends of the sport, and getting this stuff on tape. So even when we're long gone, it's always going to be there. Where are you going, Jive? Get up here. Jive owes somebody money the way he's running? Okay, Mr. Warner, do you have any stories?
Well, somebody had asked once what my secret was, and after I won my first race in a borrowed car, I figured out, don't race to win. I raced for second place.
And then dump the leader?
Pardon?
And then dump the leader?
Well, whoever was in first place usually got so scared they moved over, so.
That's my man. Well, Mark had a lot of different cars and he was always competitive out there, and he's inspired. I believe Mark Irvin was one of his proteges quite a bit.
No, not really.
Not really? Okay, take my foot out of my mouth right now, but.
No, I
Mark
ended
always
up
talked highly of me.
marrying Kathy McGinnis from the McGinnis clan that raced there.
You're a McGinnis? I'm honored.
She also worked in the photo booth, so it was a lot of fun. I started racing demolition in '65 when I got out of the Marine Corps. Did that for a few years and built the Sportsman at the same time, and found out that they paid show up for late model, and that's what changed me up to a late model. Nothing like getting $50 a night just for being there.
Yeah, that was the days. I mean, my dad and his friends had a late model back in the day in the early 60s, and how they decided where they were going to go racing that night with the same car was who was paying the most show-up money, whether it was Santa Fe or Raceway. That's how they decided where they went to race that weekend. So same car, didn't change anything, but just how they showed up. So, but these guys are amazing, and I'd like to thank every one of them coming here, and it's an honor that you guys came, and I appreciate it so much. And I thank all of you guys for coming.
Thank you for having us.
You're quite welcome. And there's more people out there that I'm having trouble seeing right now, but you guys made Santa Fe an amazing place, and I just don't know what else to say other than that. So thank you guys very much. If anybody's willing to say anything else, come on up. If not, you guys are free to go. And look at Bruce; he's the first one to run.